Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving straight into a real-world, heavily documented explainer that uncovers a massive, hidden nightmare. What actually happens when the justice system, the very thing designed to protect you, turns into a maze you literally have to fight your way through. We're going to look at the raw, administrative reality of survival.
Okay, let's start with a quote from an AI legal analysis of our source material. It perfectly summarizes the stakes we're looking at today. Meghan versus everyone. Now, I know that sounds super dramatic, right? But as you're going to see, it is a devastatingly accurate description of a huge collision of intersecting systems. So, what does this all mean? We are examining the reality of a survivor navigating this completely on her own. She is what the court calls pro se. In this explainer, we'll map out exactly how family law, child welfare, and just seemingly endless bureaucratic red tape all overlap. And they place this absolutely immense burden on a person who is simply asking for safety.
All right, Section 1, the inciting incident.
The legal reality of this abuse is absolutely undeniable. Meghan's court filings describe a truly terrifying incident back in June of 2025. She details having her head slammed into a wall, which left her with a golf ball-sized lump and a severe concussion. But, beyond the physical violence, there was this calculated isolation. Her keys, her money, her phone, all gone. Left totally without a vehicle, she actually had to use a neighbor's Wi-Fi just to call her mom for help. This is the horrifying reality that triggered her entry into the legal system.
Now, importantly, the court didn't just take her word for it. By July 2025, a magistrate issued an ex parte order for protection. They explicitly found a preponderance of evidence that domestic violence had occurred, so the threat was legally validated and the respondent was officially ordered to stay away.
But here's the thing. A piece of paper telling an abuser to stay away, that's really just the starting gun for a years-long marathon. If we jump from the physical assault and that protection order in the summer of 2025 all the way to March 2026, we get a totally different picture. We need to look at the financial snapshot of survival right before an upcoming divorce hearing.
Which brings us to Section 2, the financial paper trail.
Let's focus on a single, stark number: $0. Literally zero. This is her Cash App ending balance from March 2026. After a whole month of managing life, kids, and a wildly complex legal battle, she's left with exactly nothing. It's this state of razor-thin financial precarity that basically dictates every single legal move she makes.
And what makes that $0 balance so shocking is the sheer velocity of the money she needed just to survive. Over $2,700 had to be moved in, and roughly that exact same amount moved right back out all in a single month. It's just a constant, exhausting churn.
This really proves that even with a protection order in place, severing financial ties is an incredibly messy, chaotic battle. The transaction records reveal this crazy web of microtransactions. We're talking small loan drawdowns of $31 or $51, followed just days later by repayments. And shockingly, nestled right in the middle of all this chaos, are constant forced transfers back and forth with her abuser.
For someone actually living this day-to-day, it means constant, exhausting friction. It means relying on microloans just to bridge the gaps, or having to transfer $10 from savings just to buy Taco Bell, which, let's be real, is sometimes the only way an exhausted parent can feed their kids. And because of those joint responsibilities we mentioned, she's forced into recurring financial exchanges with the respondent. The entanglement definitely doesn't just stop when the judge's gavel bangs.
Moving on to Section 3, navigating systemic collisions.
So right at the center of this massive collision is the immense burden of being pro se. Without a lawyer, Meghan is navigating this entire legal labyrinth completely on her own. Think about that. She's acting as her own paralegal, her own attorney, and her own advocate, all while trying to actively recover from trauma.
She's basically forced to act as an air traffic controller, balancing these totally conflicting mandates. She's juggling consolidated family law dockets, she's dealing with child welfare assessments that create this looming 24-year digital shadow of persistent monitoring. And then there's the absolute administrative friction of it all, battling 35-megabyte e-filing limits for evidence and having to scrape together money from mandatory subscriptions to monitor communication apps like Our Family Wizard.
It's a stark, honestly almost absurd juxtaposition when you think about it. On one side, you have the literal life-or-death reality of escaping a violent partner. But on the other side, you're battling highly punitive, mundane government red tape.
You're trying to prove you're poor enough to get a fee waiver, while desperately trying to compress a PDF file of evidence so the court's server doesn't just reject it.
It's like a system of invisible, interlocking gears, and it shows just how fragile safety really is. If a survivor runs out of money, like that $0 Cash App balance we just talked about, and an administrative subscription to a court-mandated app happens to expire, well, what happens? Almost instantly, a hard-won protective boundary is completely compromised. The system essentially penalizes the survivor for the financial devastation that the abuse caused in the first place.
And that leads us to Section 4, the burden of proof.
So how does someone actually survive this? How do you fight the abuser and the system at the exact same time? Well, you have to master these specific steps. You basically become a meticulous record keeper, building a totally objective, behavior-based evidentiary archive. And why is that absolutely crucial? Because abusers will often use the system itself, things like false child welfare checks, as a brand new weapon of harassment. So a pro se litigant has to use cold, hard facts to force the system to adhere to its own domestic violence protocols. You literally have to know the rules better than the system does.
Which really leaves us with this final provocative thought. When a victim of violence has to become a legal scholar, a financial acrobat, and an IT specialist just to maintain a basic boundary of safety, we have to ask ourselves, when survival requires mastering the invisible gears of the justice system, who is truly being protected? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep questioning the systems around you, and I'll catch you next time.